What is a Kiwi credit card?
While it is a credit card, it's a delightful UPI for you. There's obviously rewards. The sense of security is there. I can always go to the bank and dispute any transaction. There is obviously the whole construct of financial planning. You pay it off once a month and you can put all the spends together. So all of this creates a notion of a better product.
There are significant UPI players with huge distribution. How do you differentiate?
PhonePe has crazy distribution. Google Pay has crazy distribution. We are going to serve 5 million consumers in the next 5 years. We are building product just for them. We will do smaller things. When you do that with fierce intensity, you end up building a far superior product.
Beyond credit, what would be an area that you would target?
We should not build a ginger product. Ginger, it grows from any every side. We should not have a product which is of ginger shape. Everything should be coherent.
Welcome to Hard Truths by Vertex. Today I'm joined by Anup Agrawal, founder of Kiwi, a credit card built for UPI First India. Last year, Vertex Ventures Southeast Asia and India led Kiwi Series B. Now let's talk to him. So I noticed from your background that you used to work for LazyPay. Back in the day, that was one product that I really like. Because of how cool it was to make payments. You just need to swipe and then you can make the payment. You've since moved on and you're building Kiwi now.
Yeah.
Would love to know why. And also, what exactly Kiwi is.
So when I was working for LazyPay, that's when I had the inspiration to build Kiwi. Primarily because what we were seeing was that consumer preference towards payments was completely changing. When we bifurcated why consumer use LazyPay, and we were looking at many other factors, convenience stood out to be the significant one. And while LazyPay was right top of the chart, the second most interesting payment or the most lovable payment was coming out to be UPI. I am close to 40, right? We have seen different payment modes as we grew up. It was always cash. Then when we started our job, it was debit card and ATM machine. And then it moved to credit card. And while all these payments were there, it was always cash, which was dominant. And then UPI came around 2017, 2018, and we moved to UPI. And we were juggling between multiple payment modes. I think cash was going down, and there was credit card, and there's UPI. But for folks who are in their 20s, for them, it just moved from cash maybe very, very early in their career lives to completely UPI. They haven't seen anything else. So for them, UPI is the world. While they are fascinated by the construct of credit card because the kind of reward programs it has, the lifestyle and the status, all of that it carries. But for them, dominant payment experience is UPI. There are subtle experiences consumers have picked up, which is very hard to drop. Very interesting consumer experiences, right? When we were speaking to women in India, given the trust is relatively low and women wants to have less conversations with a lot of people outside, UPI QR experience just reduces that conversation. It is just completely decoupled with the conversation with the merchant. Yeah. Very silent, very nuanced use case like that. There are small aspects of UPI which people have just taken on, which has increased the convenience factor to insane level. So today, on an average, a consumer does about 40 to 45 transactions a month, out of which 85% is completely UPI. And given credit card is mostly physical, and credit card is still one of the most loved payment experience because of the reward experience, because of the credit and all of that. Yeah. We still see about 10 to 15% number of transactions still happens on credit card, because high value transaction, you just start to optimize and you're like, where will I make the most out of this? So what we are seeing in consumers is credit card becomes a dominant play for high ticket transactions, but anything less than, let's say, 2,500 rupees
is UPI.
Is completely UPI.
Yeah.
And that's how we realize that anything which will build on future in India will be a layer on top of UPI. And that is when RBI came with a UPI credit card as a construct. And we were very clear that we will have to build something for our consumers in this particular stage. And that's what we have been doing for 2.5 years.
So, what have you figured out? And what is a Kiwi credit card look like?
So the way we explain it to a user, it's a delightful UPI for you, right? because credit card is a delightful debit card experience ever, right?
Yeah.
So we just explain to the user that we are UPI with wings of sorts. It's just a delightful UPI. So it obviously has all the benefits of a credit card, but it works on UPI because for them to understand it is a credit card goes into UPI, it is very, very hard for consumers to understand.
Why do you say credit card is a delightful debit card?
Have you ever tried using debit card now that you use a lot of credit card?
Very less.
Why?
One thing is the whole points thing. Especially we have this. So I use a daily use credit card, which gives you point, and by the end of the month, we get significant cash back in terms of grocery
Points.
savings.
Try using debit card the next time and just observe your feeling, and you will understand that it is no fun to use debit card. And you're so used to the credit card that you are not able to recognize the fun of using a credit card. The fact that you're not using debit card tells you that there is something in credit card which is not there in debit card. Obviously, rewards is clearly one of them. But even if I were to reduce the rewards, you will still end up using credit card. There are many factors. The sense of security is there, that you are logged in with this is not my personal money.
Yeah.
It is a credit money and I can always go to the bank and dispute any transaction. There is obviously the whole construct of financial planning of sorts, right? You pay it off once in a while, once a month, and you can put all the spends together. And there's obviously rewards. So all of this put together creates a notion of a better product. And that's why credit card, we always say that while debit card is also the use case for people who have money, obviously if they don't need credit, credit card is just a delightful debit card for them in some ways.
Nice. So Kiwi essentially is a delightful credit card, but for making on
UPI. So it makes our UPI experience much more delightful.
Yeah. Why do you think people who are young and using UPI need credit? Is it for the same reason or?
Different people, different user, different use cases.
Yeah.
If you ask somebody who doesn't have a credit card, for them, credit card is primarily an emergency use case. Their first thought begins with emergency use case that if I don't have money,
then I have a backup.
Then I have a backup. So it starts with backup, and then they go into the second layer where they say, okay, fine, I can use no cost EMI or EMI. Then that use case is solved. Then they go to rewards. So their utility of credit card keeps on expanding as they start using the product. But somebody who doesn't have a credit card, it starts with emergency use case. For folks who have the credit card, for them, it is better rewards, better experience.
So most of the transactions that we do is usually using a payment app, let's say a PhonePe or something, or Google Pay. It doesn't have a physical form. So I wanted to know, what is it like making payments in terms of what is the form of the card?
Card is obviously virtual. At least we believe that card is not going to be required in future as more and more transactions will happen on scan and pay or online UPI. And look at the volumes of UPI, it's significantly higher than the card and all of that. And the cost of acceptance is low. The merchant prefers UPI. And the acceptance is tenfolds compared to card acceptance. So we would like to believe that Kiwi want to be pioneer in this UPI on credit card experience. We want to support the idea that the credit card on UPI is much better experience for the consumer than the conventional credit card.
So there's a lot of existing credit card users who likes to have physical card, right? And then there's this whole group who wants metal card, fancy looking card. So does that behavior not translate to folks who are predominantly?
So behavior changes significantly. If you look at industry-wide data, 70% of their spends come from online. Via a virtual credit card, 80% of our spends come offline. So it is just the opposite. So physical card is something people love.
Oh yeah, that's very interesting.
It's very interesting. It's just the reverse of it, because UPI is getting used offline much more than online. Right? Online is still a lot of it is used through credit cards, which is getting saved, and that experience post that is you don't really need a credit card because the card is saved and you just need to put in OTP, and that experience is actually very, very nice even for cards on online space. And with new innovations which RBI is allowing fintechs to do and banks to do, OTP is getting into biometric, and all of those experiences are going to come in. So that experience is still something which is competitive to UPI, but offline UPI is hands down a better experience.
What about something like an Apple Pay experience where we are stuck with this scan and pay, right?
Yeah. So Apple Pay is clearly an experience which is very, very, it's you have used it.
Yeah.
I haven't used it, but I've seen it. It is amazing, right? It is nice. It is the NFC experience. But again, the problem is that Indian ecosystem, if you look at the merchant ecosystem, it is very, very distributed. Today, India don't have that kind of a card acceptance network because it's costly, right? For Apple Pay to work, you need to have costly acceptance infrastructure, machines. And hence, while it can be a product for, let's say, a certain segment of the consumer, it's a certain merchant segment, but I don't think so. It will be it can be solved at large scale in India.
So my assumption that your target customers were maybe not the prime customers. Is that true, or?
It depends how you define prime. Yeah. Prime can be defined as someone who is credit worthy. We definitely
with a very high credit score.
So credit score is a orthogonal vector to income.
Yeah.
Right. So a consumer who is earning 60,000 rupees a month can still have a 800 plus credit score. Right. Okay. So it is not correlated to income.
Okay.
So you can have a high income and a low score, or vice versa. So there are two different axes of this. So I think you were referring more on affluence. So that is what we call affluence, and this is called, the prime is the behavior of paying. So I think on the affluence side, the first product which we have launched is going after the credit carded consumers of India, which is the first 4 crore consumers of India. As we solve for the next 6 crores of the consumers who don't have credit card and want a product similar to a credit card or a credit card, we are working with banks, and we will launch something on those lines for those customers. But right now, the first product which we have launched is for existing to credit card. A consumer who is juggling between 2 payment modes, which is a credit card and a UPI, we are transferring the UPI payments into credit card. And that's the first step which we have taken.
Yeah.
And we are seeing insane success on that side, on that front.
These folks already have an app they're already using, right? How do you acquire those people and convince them to use Kiwi?
So if you ask a consumer, again, when I say a delightful experience, people have been using the most dominant apps in India for a while now, and people want to try. Okay, they will definitely give you a chance if you have a promising product. I think we have a promising product, both in terms of rewards, the experience on the UI, everything is, I think we have an excellent product out there in the market. So people are ready to give a chance, and that's how we acquire the consumer. And the moment they give us a chance, they realize the product is actually really good. Then the retentions are actually very, very healthy.
What are some signs of retention?
So retention can be defined in many ways, right? Yeah. I think for us, it is important that they transact on us, because that's when we are able to retain the consumer. We are able to give them a good experience. And from an economic standpoint, we are able to make a better LTV out of the consumer. So for us, we look at multiple vectors. So once we have issued a card, we look at D7 activation, then we look at D30 activation, retention, and then month on month, M6 retention rates, M12 retention rates.
Okay.
And so retention is bread and butter for us. We don't push growth till we are confident on retention.
And in terms of assessing the credit score of any of the users, is there anything that you're doing on a proprietary basis?
When we issue credit cards on our platform, we always do it via a bank.
Okay.
And RBI is extremely clear that the underwriting needs to be done by the bank. We don't have any say on underwriting. What we do is we partner with multiple banks so that we are able to give our customer the best chance to get a credit card.
So then banks have a lot of leverage.
The way we think about it is banks definitely has underwriting, but the customer experience and the customer life cycle is equally important. And that's where I think we are super strong. So we solve for distribution. We are able to explain the consumer better the product. we are able to retain consumer better, we are able to life cycle the consumer better, we are able to cross-sell consumer much, much better than banks. And that's where our muscle lies. So we don't look at underwriting, which is the only aspect which bank takes care of.
You mentioned RBI. So what are the regulatory challenges when it comes to a business like this?
So I think fintech broadly went through a lot of new regulations in the last 2-3 years. I think we are seeing much more clarity, at least around few products like credit card, personal loans, because RBI has had industry discussions. They have come out with circular which is super detailed on what can be done, what can't be done. And the fact that you're working with top banks of India, which get audited every quarter with RBI, RBI is in complete know of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And if there is feedback, they are very proactive with feedbacks. So I think from a regulatory standpoint, I think it's much more stable at this point in time. But on this particular space, and I think that will continue. I think entrepreneurs or founders will keep on pushing the boundaries within the framework.
Yeah.
And RBI will keep on coming with new circular. That is a part of whole why we start up as an ecosystem exists. But as far as credit card is concerned, I think there is enough clarity from RBI on this particular segment.
Briefly going back to the whole credit experience, right? So you mentioned that, okay, once somebody tries, then it's a delightful experience. That's one key thing in terms of retention, and retention is key. For any finance business, the other thing is also trust, right?
Yes.
So how does building trust?
The way we look at it is trust is insanely important, right? We spoke to a lot of users to understand what trust mean to them. And what we realized was there are many ways of looking at trust, and there were different users who take one. There was a definition which I came back with after talking to users. For some of the user, trust is basically, I have a formula for that, which says number of promises kept by number of promises made, right? As simple as that. So whatever you're saying, so from a product side, product commitment made to product delivery made, right? As simple as that. You keep on doing that, you start building trust. And it's insane if you just do 2-3 times, you keep your promises, the trust goes up. But there are other facets of trust, right? There is obviously brand building, which needs to be done. People need to know you. Google Play Store, there should be enough number of reviews about you. Obviously, that has to be positive. The design has a very large role to play in trust, right? Yeah. Does it feel trustworthy? At the moment, so how does consumer make a decision? Ultimately, feeling has a lot to do with that.
Yeah. And it's snap decisions.
It's very snap. It is very moment-led. So if the customer feels it's trustworthy, that is very important. And that is particularly achieved by your design and the experience you are crafting for the consumer. And there has to be a lot of thought that needs to be given. We saw, initially we started off and we were brainstorming, we said we will put logos of NPCI because it's NPCI, or we will put partner banks, all of that. We realized that that's not what the consumer is looking at.
How do you figure that out?
We realized the consumer is not looking at that.
Okay.
Consumer is not looking at that. So we have done ABs also with number of logos, removing number of logos. Doesn't matter. It's the design, the colors which you're using. Does it feel at the core of it, it's trustworthy or not? Nobody's looking at the, borrowed trust logos.
Yeah. So you mentioned about number of promises made by number of promises kept. What are the number of top 3 promises?
As simple as the payment is going seamlessly. And they have a benchmark because they have been using it. The experience is similar or better or not.
Yeah. I think it's always the number one thing, whether something works.
Whether something works, simple as that. You told me that you will get a credit card. Did I get a credit card? You told me that the transaction will work smoothly. Did it actually work? You told me that I will get this much of rewards and cashback or whatever that is. Did I really get it? And it's a stark difference. For what happens is there are certain MCC which are excluded from rewards. Yeah. MCC means merchant credit, merchant code. So for example, and it defines in which category the merchant belongs to. So let's say jewelry is one of the categories, or fuel is one of the category where there are no rewards given. So what we see is consumers who did their first transaction on fuel and ended up not getting rewards. Many of them did not have the clarity that this MCC or this category of merchants were excluded. We saw attrition there.
Yeah. Okay.
because they were like, dude,
Yeah, you
just
promised
not,
this.
yeah, you promised it.
Yeah.
Uh, so we have to be much more transparent around it. We are
Yeah.
working on increasing our transparency so that users are extremely clear as to what the product commitment
Yeah.
from Kiwi is.
Yeah. People often say about credit business, it's easy to lend, but very difficult to recover money.
Yeah.
So what happens when somebody don't pay?
This part of this business is managed generally by banks.
Yeah.
So in our case, what we have seen, credit card has generally been not that risky a segment as we have spoken about. It's high affluence, prime or super prime on the payment side. So this particular area hasn't been of significant concern for us. When we talk to banks, in fact, our portfolios are performing really, really well. But I think ultimately it's risk rewards. I think the pricing will change significantly different for whether risk is relatively high. At the end of it, I don't think so we are in a just risk business. We are in a business where risk and reward needs to be managed by the bank.
Yeah.
At the end of it, if there is cost on the credit side, if that is paid up by the returns, banks are generally fine with it.
Earlier you mentioned that when customers immediately don't get rewards, there's attrition. So I saw from your website that you also offer cashbacks, right? Would you consider that as an acquisition cost?
We have cashback pretty much on every transaction, and that is primarily funded by the interchange we get on every transaction. So cashback obviously is part of reward. And why we have kept it cashback is primarily because we feel that cashback is the most. When we started looking at multiple other cards, we started looking at NPS of the credit cards, of different kind of credit cards in India, and we realized that cashback cards had the highest NPS.
Yeah.
Because users are very clear that a lot of companies have this construct of breakage, which is basically if I give you 100 rupee kind of a rewards, people should not be able to use, let's say, 40 or 30, and that becomes a saving. And so you can create a higher perceived value, but end up at lower cost. Yeah. But that leads to customer attrition because customer NPS goes down because you are at odds with consumers.
Their credit card, which we use the most regularly as a family, is because it gives cash back directly.
Yeah, users and
don't
UPI,
care about any other.
UPI has taught users that this delayed gratification as a construct, where I will accumulate points and do something. People want very, very clean engagement where they have extreme amount of clarity as to what is going to happen.
So there are significant UPI players, right, with huge distribution.
Yeah.
Then there's also Cred, which recently announced something for UPI credit product also. How do you see them and how do you differentiate?
Insane respect for the large players, right? PhonePe has crazy distribution. Google Pay has crazy distribution. We are going to serve 5 million consumers on credit card in the next. We are building product just for them. PhonePe has to serve 600 million users. Recently, they came up with a number that they have 65 crore registered consumers. So we are focusing on a particular segment of users. And I think when you do that with fierce intensity, you end up building a far superior product. Yeah. And that is where I think our real moat is going to be. We will do smaller things. For example, onboarding experience for credit card we think is going to far superior than any product, which for them is a cross-sell. For us, it's bread and butter. So on every aspect for this particular product, I think we will try and do a better job.
But Cred is also focused on a very small.
Yeah. So if you look at Cred today, Cred is primarily the most prominent use case for Cred is credit card bill payment, right?
Yeah.
So insane number of consumers use. In fact, they are clearly by far the number one credit card bill payment app in India. But users, when they look for a different product, while distribution does help, they go and look at the consideration set, and you have to thrive in that consideration set. So distribution gives you an advantage, but not necessarily helps you win in all the cases.
Yeah.
So what we have to ensure, and what we are working always on a daily basis and are very, very conscious about, is that within the consideration set, are we doing a great job?
And that consideration set being credit on UPI.
Yeah. So UPI credit card, are we the number one? Are we among the top 2 players, top 3 players?
Beyond credit, what would be an area that you would target to?
We work backwards again from consumer as to what consumer needs and what aligns very well for our consumer within a user story inside Kiwi. This construct I have of a ginger product. We should not build a ginger product. Ginger, have you seen ginger grow? It grows from every side.
Yeah, it goes everywhere.
You should not have a product which is of ginger shape.
Yeah.
Everything should be coherent.
So what will be that coherent thread for all the...
And that is what, so for an example, who are we? We are UPI, we are credit, and we are rewards in some ways. If we were to, from a consumer, when they look at Kiwi, and if you have to look at, bifurcate it into subsets, it will be UPI, it is credit, and this is rewards.
Yeah.
So we layer our products on these 3 dimensions. So for an example, recently we launched credit card EMIs on UPI. Delightful experience. You scan a QR, you get an EMI option right in there, zero cost EMI. It was a super delightful experience. Customers just loved it. We saw insane traction on those EMI transaction. So we are very thoughtful around what do we stand for in the consumers' memory cells, how do they remember us, and we try and plug our products in that particular structure.
UPI, credit, and rewards. What else can be plugged into this?
So if you think about rewards, can there be a reward accelerator program within UPI? So maybe for an example, so we give rewards and consumer wants to earn more rewards, right? There can be section inside that. If they do certain aspects, so there can be flights, so there can be hotels within our reward section. If they use it, they get more Kiwis. Yeah. So there can be a commerce plugged inside the reward section. I explained you how we are building credit and UPI experience on EMI. Yeah. We are looking at all the aspects of, we recently launched Lounge as well as one of the products. So we are looking at anything which is regards to this 3. Yeah. So reward in a way encapsulates everything. You can put anything where you can give more rewards to the consumer and help consumer earn more rewards. So there is a large spectrum of products. Initially, we spoke about TG. So we will address, from a TG standpoint, we are going to address non-credit carded consumers. So recently, in the next 2 months, we'll come out with credit line on UPI, Kiwi Postpaid as a product, which will serve the consumers who don't have a credit card. Okay. So again, we are solving for a different TG on this same
3 buckets.
Yeah.
One last question. Imagine it's 2035. Where do you think, or where do you want Kiwi to be?
The way I always tell my PMs, and for myself also, you need to imagine Taj Mahal before the Taj Mahal is actually built. So 2035 is that for me. For me, I would love to see Kiwi as the forefront app. It should be synonymous, and I think for me there are different ways of looking at it. There's consumer articulation of what Kiwi is that will delight me, but at the end of it, it's the brand which we want to build, where Kiwi becomes synonymous to a little bit of prestige of using UPI. So whenever you say I'm using Kiwi, there is a little bit of pride in it. I am using the best product in the market.
Yeah, it's like you said, delightful debit card.
So it should be synonymous to
delightful UPI.
Yeah, it should be synonymous to that.
Yeah. This was great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Rahul. Thanks for having me here.